welcome to The Financial Operator. Today we have a special guest. Her name is LuAnn Buechler, and she is a culture creator. Now, I'd never heard of this term before, but she has a really interesting story and she helps businesses do something very cool. So I'm going to let her chat about herself, but welcome, LuAnn.
Thanks, Jen. Great to be here.
Yes. Okay. So tell me about yourself.
So you want the beginning, the middle, or the end?
Yes. Give me all of it.
So, as many people, right, there's not a straight path to where I am today. I typically always go back to the beginning when I was trying to determine what it was I was going to be when I grew up. I was a junior in high school, and my father was a high school teacher. And he said to me, I was filling out college applications, and he said to me, "Well, what are you going to be when you grow up? It might help you pick a college." And I looked at him like, what? Like, what kind of question is that? Like, I'm supposed to follow in my father's footsteps, right? That's the way this thing works. So I'm like, I'm going to be a teacher like you. Like, I was just dumbfounded. And he looked at me and he said, no, do something else. Now, here's a man who raised 7 children on a teacher's salary 40 years ago, right? And this is how people help us, by the way. First lesson, this is how people help us. They answer questions based on their life experiences, not yours. And so based on his life experience, he was really saying to me at the time, I want something more for you. I don't want you to have to struggle the way that I did. And so he sent me off in a different direction other than teaching. And I ended up going to hotel school, and I spent 15 years in the hospitality industry in all aspects of the hotel operation. And then it became time to have children, and I no longer wanted to work in a 24/7 operation when I had little children, right? You don't want to be working on Mother's Day and Thanksgiving and these kinds of things. And so I had to look for something else. And so I am from Rochester, Minnesota, home of the world famous Mayo Clinic, and half the community works at the Mayo Clinic. And the Mayo Clinic meeting planners were my clients at the hotel. I was in meeting and convention management, and I helped plan the Mayo Clinic meetings in our hotel properties. So I set my sights on getting a job at the Mayo Clinic in their meeting planning division, which it took me 5 interviews to convince them that what I had to offer translated to meeting and event planning in the medical arena. But I finally got in on that opportunity, and then today I would tell you I worked for them for 8 years too long, and that I should have known when they came back to my little office in the corner and said, "Shh, you're having too much fun," that I was in the wrong place. So I tell people my personality did not fit the dress code at the Mayo Clinic. But what it gave me for those 8 years was a 9-to-5 job, basically. And so I could manage my children. Even though I planned 17 conferences a year, I knew exactly when I was going to be out of town, or exactly how long I was going to be out of town. So I was able to plan in advance for that. But when that shifted and I no longer needed the benefits of the Mayo Clinic for my children, I went, okay, I got to get out of here. There's no place else to go. For me, it was a blessing in disguise that I ended up unemployed for a summer. It happened to be the summer that my father passed away, and now I consider that a blessing to have been able to be with him during that journey. And then in the fall, of course, what happens is I was like, I need a job. And so I took the first opportunity that came my way, which was with a travel agency, and they were going to build a meeting planning division. And they thought, because of my experience with Mayo Clinic, that they could get all the Mayo Clinic meetings if they hired me. Now, this was an unspoken thought of theirs. That, of course, never happened. And so when they realized that was not going to happen, they let me go. Now, in that window, which was only 6 months, I found
Oh, goodness. They didn't give you much time, did they?
I know. Well, the Mayo Clinic was working on deciding if they were going to outsource their meetings and stop having their own meeting planners, or if they were going to continue on the way they were doing. Now, it took them 5 years to figure that out, because that's how it worked in there. But they happened to figure that out and come to that conclusion during that 6 month I was with that travel agent. And so when the Mayo said, we're not outsourcing anything, then they went, well, then we're done too. So, but the blessing was I found a little organization called BNI. Jen, you familiar with BNI?
I am.
Yeah, so that stands for Business Network International. For those of you who might not be aware of it, it's the world's largest networking organization, helping you build your business by referral. And I had joined BNI to build that meeting planning division with the travel agency. And so when she let me go, I just went back to my little printer, printed my own business card, and went right back to my BNI meeting as if nothing had happened. Just a little name change is all I told them. But that was my safety net, and that was my savior. And I've been a BNI member for 21 years.
Oh, wow.
As of today. So it is the primary way that, this is another lesson, primary way that I market my business as a small business owner is doing business by referral and through a network like BNI. In the first year in my BNI membership, though, I also realized, I'm not making any money and I need to pay this membership again. How am I going to do that? And I looked around the room and noticed a woman who was working on BNI's behalf. And I said, how do I get to do what you do? And do you get paid? And she said, I get paid a tiny little bit of commission, but really the true value is that it pays my membership. So in exchange for working for the organization, you don't pay a membership. At least historically, that's the way it was. And so I'm like, I want to be one of you. And what did they get to do? They got to teach people how to do business by referral and networking. So, here comes that teacher head popping its head up again. I'm going, I love to teach. And so I became a BNI. At the time, it was called an assistant director, and helps other chapters and other members be successful at applying the system that is BNI. From that, I was blessed with an opportunity to meet Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, and now Chief Visionary Officer, when he came to Minnesota for a 10th anniversary celebration of BNI operating in Minnesota. And I became his chauffeur for the time that he was here. And I picked him up at the airport, and I took him to his hotel, and we had about an hour to kill before we needed to be anywhere else. And we did what our BNI members will know who are listening is a BNI one-to-one. And we sat and we had a conversation about his business and about my business and got to know each other. And it was about 18 months later, he called me up and he said, LuAnn, I think I have a referral for you. I couldn't believe it. I was about to fall off my chair in my office. I'm like, I met him once, but this is how high in integrity this man is in the philosophy of his own organization, right? We live on giver's gain. If you give of yourself to help other people be successful, you will naturally gain in return. And so when he saw a need in the organization that he was a member of called the Transformational Leadership Council, and they needed more meeting planners, he went, LuAnn, do you want the opportunity? And I'm like, wow, well, that would be great. You know, he goes, I don't even know if it's paid or not, but you get to hang out with people like the likes of Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul author, Mark Victor Hansen, John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, you know, and I'm like, yeah, totally. Talk about getting to hang out with the people you want to be like, right? It was the ultimate opportunity to do that. And so I got that opportunity, and I've been with the Transformational Leadership Council now for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
I started as one of their event planners. I am now a member of the organization doing my own transformational work in the world, but I learned it all from hanging out with these people. I mean, I learned the networking side of growing my business from BNI, and then sitting in the events that we do as the Transformational Leadership Council, I picked up all these other fabulous messages. And they really live the giver's gain philosophy in that organization. And anything that they have new that comes out, a program, a book, a CD, what have you, right? They go, here, take it. Go spread the message in the world of this great concept. And so that's how I learned a lot of what I teach my clients now. I'm based in the work of the Passion Test, which you'll see over my shoulder here is the best-selling book, The Passion Test. And in the Passion Test, you're taught how to help people facilitate a process of identifying their top 5 passions and living a course to that in their life. Are you familiar at all, Jen, with something called the Strength Finder?
Yes.
Right. So for your audience who might be familiar with that, or those that don't, that Strength Finder is actually a test you can go online and take. It's called the Strength Finder 2.0. And you get 120 questions on a Likert scale of do you like this situation or not? And then it spits out your top 5 strengths. I don't profess to understand how that test works, but I know when it spit out my top 5 strengths, I went, oh my gosh, it nailed it. Nailed it right on the head. So I
all
call
of
that
these personality tests amaze me. I'm like, how do you know this about? I mean, I know there's some science behind it, but
there is science behind it, right? I call that the scientific methodology, or brain. Because to answer your question, you answer with your brain. Scientific methodology at getting in who you were designed to be, and the Passion Test is the heart and soul methodology. Now, the Passion Test is not a test. You cannot go online and just take a test. It's a process that I facilitate people through to help peel back the onion and get down to the heart of the matter and what they really care most about, right? And then we uncover your top 5 passions. And I tell people, if you put those 2 pieces together, it's a powerhouse of knowledge of just who you were designed to be, and go do that. Go live that in the world. When you're living who you were designed to be, your authentic self, 100%, life just seems easier. I mean,
so those 2 things are what our high school kids should be doing instead of just randomly picking some major at a school that they may or may not like, right?
Okay, enough about me. Can I tell you a quick story about a high school kid I worked with?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So his mother was in my network, and she was so adamant about not imposing her dreams on her son. This is her oldest son, that she said, I'm not going to talk to you about what you need to become or want to become. You have to figure it out on your own. And he got really upset over time because he's like, I don't know how to figure it out by myself, right? And finally one day he literally was about on the verge of tears, and she said, okay, wait a minute, I know who can help you. And she called me and she said, LuAnn, can you take my 18-year-old son through the Passion Test? And I said, well, yes, if an 18-year-old young man will sit in a room with me and have a conversation, I would love to do that. And indeed, that's what we did, and I took him through the process. Now, we got down to his top 5, and nowhere in that did I personally see career. But his number 1 passion was to be a good dad and family man. At 18 years old, that was his number 1 passion, to be a good dad and family man. So then I said, okay, let's make a list of all the jobs, careers, whatever anyone told you you should be or you thought you should be. No matter how it came to you, give me a list of 10 of those things. And part of the process is a prioritization process. So we prioritized those down to the top 5 of the list that he had made. And I said, so wait a minute. The key to living a passionate life is whenever you're faced with a choice, a decision, or an opportunity, consistently choose in favor of your passions. So it becomes a decision-making tool. So I took the list and I said, can you be a doctor and be a good dad and family man? And he said, no. Without hesitation, without flinching, no came out of his mouth. The next one was surgeon. I said, can you be a good dad and family man and be a surgeon? He was like, absolutely not. And so I don't know how he's experienced those other people, but obviously he knows, right? What the perception he has. Then the third one was chiropractor. I said, can you be a good dad and family man and be a chiropractor? And he said, I think so. He said, my aunt is a chiropractor in the Twin Cities, and she even incorporates her family in the practice. And I said, well, what does that look like? Maybe you should go spend a day with her and see what that's like. Not only did he go and spend a day with his aunt, he shadowed 2 chiropractors in our city in Rochester before he finally made his decision. But he came to the decision the chiropractor was what he wanted to be. And he, confident, held his head high. Because you got to know, in Rochester, Minnesota, home of the world famous Mayo Clinic, and half the community works at the Mayo Clinic, right? He went back to his school, and his high school friends went, what? You're not going to be a real doctor. You're going to be a chiropractor. And he held his head high and proud and said, yes, I am. He is a chiropractor today, just in the Chicagoland area. It's super awesome, and he never faltered from that decision.
Is he a dad?
What?
Is he a dad?
You know what? I don't know that yet, but thanks for queuing that up, because I'm going to go find out now. I haven't talked to his family for a while, but yeah, I know he's married, so I'll bet I'm going to say likely he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, super powerful. It's super simple, but super powerful, because we don't ask ourselves those all-important questions. We keep going and we keep looking for answers outside ourselves instead of inside ourselves. We keep comparing ourselves to other people. Oh, I should do what they're doing because they're being successful, or need to go over there because that's more successful, or that's easier. Not true. It's about aligning with who you were designed to be and doing just that. That's when you feel like you're in flow of your life. Not when you're, what is the word I want? Oh.
Well, I feel like I can relate to what you're saying for a lot, because, I mean, even high school and all the way through, even probably the first, 10 years of my career, right? I honestly, all I wanted was for somebody else to tell me what I should be doing rather than trying to figure out. I was like, it would be so much easier if somebody just told me what to do, and then I can go do that, right? Like,
right, and
somebody else.
As kids, we are told what to do, right?
Yes.
And we're told what to do for till we're 18, most of us, right? And so we're in that pattern, and then all of a sudden you got to make decisions for yourself. You go, what? And if nobody's taught you a decision-making tool, right, then you're lost.
Yeah. Well, and you're only exposed to so much. I mean, you're only exposed to the things around you, right? So there are a gazillion jobs out there, or careers, or businesses, things that exist. And if you are not exposed to all of those, how are you supposed to even know that it's an option?
Right.
So,
and you come from a community like mine, where it's very one-sided of an industry, and the rest of us are serving in capacities that support that medical industry. I mean, the hospitality industry is the second largest industry in our community, because we get so many visitors in that we have to have hotels and restaurants and all of those things available for the people that come visit here. So you see, and IBM was the other biggie back in the day. It's not a large part of our community anymore, but it was. And so the choices appeared limited to the kids growing up here.
Yeah, I can see that exactly. Okay, so then how did you make that jump? Because you went from like meeting planning kind of thing, and now you are helping businesses create their own culture. Tell me
Right.
the connect there.
Well, so as I said, I learned everything I know from the Transformational Leadership Council with regard to coaching. Right, I have 15 years of business experience in operations in the hospitality industry. But then I started taking these transformational messages, and the passion test was the first one that I got certified in. And then I'm certified in what's called the passion test for business. And so we took the philosophies of the passion test and created a business model that helps business owners uncover their core values.
Okay.
And what I've experienced, I mean, you might hear about core values, and if you study business, you hear you should have core values, mission, vision, all that, right? But most people don't actually do it or apply it unless you're in a major corporation that was established in that way from its birth or beginnings. And especially the small business owner that hangs out in a BNI arena, oftentimes they're leaving, they're starting their own business because they left a toxic work environment. And they're like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go do my own thing. Well, they don't go write a business plan. They don't go set up core values and their mission, vision. No, they hang out a shingle and they start working, right? And so, so I take the tools of all these programs, and the core of which, again, is the passion test for business, and help companies to identify their core values. And then based on core values, you establish your culture. And what attracts people to doing business with you, both as a team member, employee, strategic partner, or client, is when you share your core values. People are attracted to people that they are like-minded with, right? In the networking world, we say people are attracted to people they know, like, and trust. Well, part of that knowingness is knowing that we are like-minded, and that the way you value the world and value your customers is the way I want to be treated, and that I want to be a part of that. And so it helps them to use their core values also as marketing strategy by sharing them in the world. And this is really sharing from the heart, my friends, right? It's not spinning it into a fancy marketing message. It's about telling your story, right? There's story brands is a philosophy out there. Brand formation is a gentleman that talks about your story and then creating your brand out of your story. And my work is doing the same thing. I'm just helping people to get at the heart of the matter, if you will.
So what are your core values?
My core values are serving heart-centered entrepreneurs and inspiring others to achieve the success that they desire. One of my core values is having fun with everything I do. It has to have fun in it. I want to speak to all kinds of people. Is one of my values. I like to get out and be on the speaker circuit. And being connected at a spiritual level.
Okay, so how did you, I mean, those are all great core values, obviously, but how did you pick those out of all of the potential options, right? Because this is, I think, probably some business owners' problem. It's like, well, how do I narrow it down to just 5? Like,
that is the work of the passion test, Jen. That is exactly what we take. It's a process, right, that I need to take people through, and it's a process of prioritization that makes it feel like a process of elimination on purpose, so that you can really narrow down to, we like to get it down to 5 to 7, no more than that. Because one of the things about using your core values as a decision-making tool is that you have to have them memorized. You have to know them. And so that you, in every decision you make, which we're making decisions almost every second in a day, right? That we're keeping in alignment with those core values. So if you give your employees 10 and they're long and complicated, that's not going to work, right? Strategically, it doesn't work. And so short, concise phrases, always written in the positive, narrowed down to 5 to 7 of those phrases as your core values. And then you have to implement and integrate them into everything you do inside your business. I encourage my companies to hang them on the wall so the customers see them and the employees see them regularly. They begin meetings with them, that you review them and you talk about how are we applying these in the way that we treat people, in the way that we operate, kind of thing. I'm a part of another network organization called eWomen Network. And in eWomen Network, they do have 9 core values, and I do love them all. I don't know that I could quote all 9 to you right now, though, but we go over them at the beginning of any meeting. No matter what kind of meeting it is, we start with the core values. And that's the way to implement true core values. I had a conversation one day with a gentleman I hadn't seen for about 20 years, and I'm like, oh, goodness gracious, we ran across each other. How are you doing? And I'm like, tell me about your core values. And he goes, well, give me a minute. Let me see if I can find them, and then I'll tell you about them. I'm like, no, you already told me all I need to know. If you don't know them as the CEO of the company by heart, then you're not using them the way that they need to be implemented into a company.
And nobody else is going to know them either, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, but there's another company that I've worked with before called 2 Men in a Truck. And again, I'm not going to be able to tell you all their core values, but I remember the one that spoke to me. And the one that spoke to me is the grandma rule. And the grandma rule says that we're going to treat your belongings just like we would our grandma. And that just spoke to me, right? If they're going to be that gentle with my things, then I want to work with you, right? And if you're that concerned about taking care of my things, the same way you would take care of your grandma's things, super, you're in. I want to work with you. See how that can work, when somebody aligns with what you're sharing as your values, and they want to be a part of that. It's interesting. I just told you one of my values is working with heart-centered entrepreneurs. I don't think most men think about themselves as heart-centered entrepreneurs until you say that. Then they self-identify. Yes, I work from my heart, and these are people who really identify with caring for their team. Like, most of the time, another story, one of my clients, he's so worried about building a team and having a team because he's like, what if I can't pay them? If I can't pay them, then they can't take care of their families. And that's my responsibility once I hire them to make sure that I can pay them. And so this is the rock and the hard place he sat in for a long time until we built up his confidence to say, if you have employees, more customers will come and you won't have to do it all by yourself. And now he's got a team of 4, which is fantastic.
That's an interesting thing, though, because that is always one of the, in my position, I'm helping businesses grow. Generally, I'm on the financial side of it. But one of those things that every business that I talk to says they want to grow. And then that's one of the things that I bring up, though, because first of all, I'm like, how much do you like managing people? Because that's going to be, as the company grows, that becomes your job, right? You're no longer out in the truck with the customers. You are now managing the people that are going out and doing that. But then I also say you are fully responsible for these people's lives now. Like, you are the one that's providing their income. You are, and I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from growing, because that's actually, I just want them to think about it, because a lot of times they're thinking about it purely from a financial perspective. They're only thinking about, oh, well, if I hire more people, that's more revenue coming in. And there's not the responsibility piece of that they're considering and how that changes their job. So I'm kind of pushing them into those core values, whether they know it or not, like thinking about, do you actually like being the person that's managing the people that are going out and running your business? And do you want that responsibility of being in charge of not only your family's finances, but everybody else's finances as well?
Right. So here's a place where we could be good referral partners, Jen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, hey, you might want to talk to a coach who helps you create core values and create culture, because when you have that, you attract a team.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes so much easier to manage a team who's engaged because they want to be there than because they have to be there just to collect a paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different dynamic. And by the way, I am not the money person. I do not know anything about collecting the bills. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to spin people right back at you to go, now Jen's going to help you manage the financial side of this equation, because of course that needs to be handled as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
You're getting
absolutely.
the fun side of it, right, Drew? You're getting the bill.
Like I said, one of my
your core
values,
values, right?
having
Yeah.
fun with everything I do.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So tell me a little bit, because you are so super involved, obviously, in the BNI and like the different groups and networking, and you've just brought up referrals. So one of the things that I think would be good to talk to you about is like, how do you get involved in those types of organizations and make it worth your time?
Oh, I love the latter part of that question. Easy to get involved. You just got to show up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, there's always an investment, and so check with your financial that you can able to financially invest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to get 100% back of that and much more of what you invest if you apply the system. Now, BNI is a very structured system, right? And it's an education organization. So we're going to teach you the tools, the messaging, the way to operate within the system to make the system work for you and to get the results that you came there to get. That's our job, to make sure as a member you get your return on investment and 100 times that. It's really what we want for you, right? And so it sets itself apart with that. The eWomen network I'm a part of is not based on that referral strategy, but it is based on building relationships and collaborative partnerships. Like I just mentioned to you, like we could create a collaborative partnership. And ultimately it means that we're passing clients back and forth, but it's not tracked as referrals the way that BNI does it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to look at the different types of networks, because those are the two I know the most about, but there's plenty others, right? And what fits your personality, your goals, and what you can commit to participating in, I think, is important as well. I look at my BNI as my sales force. I'm a one-woman show. I don't have anybody but me, but I have a sales team of 25 people out there who know exactly what I do and listen for opportunities for me in the community and connect me with other business owners that they interact with who need the coaching that I can provide. I couldn't pay for 25 people to be out there selling for me that way, right? And so that's the value I see in BNI. And they're not really selling for me, but they're the eyes and ears. On the other hand, I've seen salespeople that do nothing more than sit around and chat with people. And you go, how are you getting paid to just sit around and talk to people?
So that brings up a good question to me, though, is that how do you choose? Because so I'm near Kansas City, so I don't know. We have like 100 different BNI groups that are potential. How do you choose the right one?
Okay, so when you're talking about BNI groups, how do you choose? I'm going to tell you to look for the time and location that you can commit to, because we do have an attendance policy for a reason, to make sure that you're there every week. Make sure that it's convenient for you to get there every week. Like if you've got kids going to school at 7 a.m., don't pick a 7 a.m. meeting, pick an 8 or a 9 or 11:30 or whatever other options there are, so you know it fits into your schedule and you can get there, because that's part of our commitment to one another, is to show up every week and be a part of it. Also, visit. You can visit any BNI chapter twice before making a financial decision. So go and visit if there's several that you can choose from that would work in a day and time that works for you. And then see how that feels, because guess what? Every single chapter has its own culture. We have a set of BNI core values. Every chapter talks about those, but there's personality behind culture as well, right? And so who's in the room? And how does that room feel to you? Are you comfortable there? And look around the room at who are the people that can be my best referral partners. Are they in the room, right? Is there a business coach that can refer to you, Jen? Is there employees benefits person, commercial insurance, commercial banker? These kind of people would be, to me, your natural referral partners. And are those people in the room? So this is going to be a strong space for me to be. So we identify those as people in what we call your contact sphere. They share the same target market as you, but they don't do exactly what you do. So you're not in direct competition, but we're all after the same target market. Make sense? And then it's about building relationships with those people. It doesn't happen overnight. BNI is not a get-rich-quick overnight sensation. No. In our mission statement, it talks about building long-term, meaningful relationships. So that's what it's about, and that's why there's people around like me for 21 years. The organization is 40 years old, and I know there are members that have been around all 40 years. But it's because the system works. If you work the system. Now, you can't just show up and sit there for 90 minutes each meeting and expect it to work. There's so much more to it than that, right? And so it's like, I have a brother who owned his own business, and I'm like, you can't just sit around and wait for the phone to ring. You got to go do something, right? He didn't want to do a network, but that was his choice. But that's what you need to know is it's your sales team. That's what you got to look at your BNI members as, your sales team. And you're educating them on what you do and what's a good referral for you, so they know when they see it in their interactions in the business world, and they go, oh, you need to talk to my friend LuAnn. She can help you with that.
Okay. All right. So let's get back though to a little bit about what you do, because we've kind of jumped a little bit, but you're helping business. We've talked about culture, but you do like a year-long kind of process with people. You're not just like meeting with them one time and being like spitting out their core values and moving on. You're helping businesses for an extended period of time, right?
Right. That is my premium package.
Okay.
Yes. Can I do the other? Sure. But again, just like my friend who couldn't tell me about his core values because he couldn't put his hands on them, right? That's what happens if I just go help people create them, is then they sit in a drawer on their desk somewhere. So the premium package that I ask people to engage in to really get what they came to get is a year long, and really anywhere from the first 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on how we customize the schedule. And I customize the schedule around everybody's business. You have to, they have work to do. And so it could take up to 6 months to complete the full process and end up with what I call an inspired strategic plan. Now, this is not the typical 10-year plan. Well, although we create a 10-year vision of what your vision is for where you want to be 10 years from now, the only actions we create are for the next year to 18 months. So again, 6 months, we've got this action plan. Now for the next 6 months, we're going to begin to implement. And implementation is key. Again, that's where people typically get lost. I had been working with people for 6 months to get them to that plan. And then I would say, hey, are you going to do this? Are you going to implement it? Or do you need me to stick around and help you? And when they'd say, no, we got this, and they would part ways with me, I would check in on them 6 months later and go, how you doing? Haven't done anything. Right? And so nothing was getting applied. So virtually what they've done is wasted the investment that they made with me for the first 6 months. So rather than do that, it's just a little bit higher price to have the whole year long, and we get fully into implementation. And again, then I'm still going to ask, are you good? And what they really have to have identified is someone in the company that is going to make sure that that plan is followed monthly, quarterly, because it's a living, breathing document that you check off what you get done and you put on the next things, building towards that big vision. And if there's someone that can really be responsible for that, then great.
Yeah.
One of my companies, it took 8 years before they finally had a person who was in the swing of this thing and took on the responsibility, and even created a new project management system with them based on what we had created for the strategic plan. So super cool. But a lot of the business owners that I work with are smaller, even solopreneurs, and so there's no one else to do it, right?
Yeah.
And
if you don't have that accountability of somebody checking in.
And when it's working, they don't want to quit, right? Like when they see the growth that happens because they're following this model, then they go, yeah, like you're here by our side. And I love that, right? It's fabulous.
Okay, well, so then that brings to the question of, if somebody wants to work with you, what's the best way to find you?
The easiest way to find me is LuAnnB.com. LuAnnB.com is my website, and there's a complimentary 30-minute session there. You can just click on that, and we'll have a conversation, and we'll learn where you're at and what your needs are, and go from there.
Okay, that's awesome. So LuAnnB.com. All right. Well, thank you, LuAnn, for being on the show today. It was a pleasure talking to you as always. Go check out LuAnn's website, get that free 30-minute call with her, and you will skyrocket your business, I'm sure. So